esteemed speakers who are experts in their fields. We will start with a short presentation on Advent Group market intelligence data, followed by a panel discussion and then a Q&A. From time to time, there would be a pop-up question that appear on the screen. With us are Roanne, Assistant Director, MBA Program, CUHK Business School. We have Aaron Gore, Director, Master of Science Program Office, NUS Business School, and Winston Wee, Senior Director of Admission, Asia School of Business. I'm confident that today's discussion will be insightful and ultimately leave us all with valuable takeaways. Advent Group has 20 years presence in the area of business education, and that covers events, media, and enrollment solutions. The postgraduate recruitment events are Access MBA, Access Masters, Premier EMBA, Women in MBA, Merit Summit, and Access Online. Working with 350 world-renowned business schools and universities and running more than 200 events yearly, I'm pleased to share with you some insights. So let me have a look at the slides now. I'm sure you're all able to see that. Great. So I'm going to start off with the trend of the applications in terms of postgraduate programs. We do see that there is a decline in the applications in Asia, with domestic a drop of 8.4% and international applications 2.5%. Now, I must stress that this is in Asia. And next, let's see what about the programs. So we see that there's actually a drop in terms of all programs globally. And while in Asia, 2/3 of the programs have also seen a decline, which is actually 2 years in a row, in 2022 as well as in 2023. And this applies to all programs. Now let's move on to some internal data that we have that I'd like to share from our events. So these are the events Access MBA that we hold it in Singapore in 2023. We see that the work experience of the candidates are 8.16 years on average, with positions that cover managerial, engineer, and consultant, and the average age is 34%, that is between 26 to 30 years. Now, these are actually great profiles that we have for our candidates that come for our event. Now, let's have a look at the other city, which is Jakarta in Indonesia. So we see that there is a higher percentage of female candidates at 46%, and also 44.5% is from the age group of 26 to 30 years old. And the work experience is 8.16 average, and current work position managerial, engineer, and consultant. And once again, these are great profiles from our candidates in our Jakarta event last year. Now, I'd like to touch on the other area, which is very much on what are the current trends in terms of fields of study. The largest share of STEM certified students, the interest actually comes from Asia. You see from Central and South Asia, 39%, East and Southeast Asia, 15%. Now we look into the trends in postgraduate fields for Asian students. What are the trends now? So STEM fields remain popular, and this includes computer science, engineering, and data science. There is also a shift of focus within STEM. While traditional STEM fields are strong, there's a growing interest in emerging areas. For example, artificial intelligence, robotics, and data analytics. We also see that business and management programs are gaining traction, particularly those with a focus on entrepreneurship, innovation, and international business. So this actually reflects the growing Asian entrepreneurial spirit and interest in global business careers. We also see that there's a rise in postgraduate programs in social sciences, like public policy, education, and psychology. This might be due to a desire to address social change. What are the current social challenges in Asia, as well as they want to contribute to public good. Now let me move on to looking into the student numbers abroad. So as you can see from here, China has the highest number of students that are studying abroad in terms of postgraduate programs, followed by India, and third would be Vietnam. And from our events, we actually analyze what are the candidates' mobility trends in terms of postgraduate programs. And let's have a look at the next slide in terms of the preferences of the locations of study. So for Asian candidates, we look at firstly the MBA programs. USA topped the list, followed by UK and Singapore. And for Indian candidates, USA, UK, and France. Now let's look at Asian candidates, but for master's programs. And we see that top the list is UK, followed by USA and Australia. And for Indian candidates, we see that it is USA, UK, and Canada. Now let's move on to the next, which is something that's very important. We want to know what actually the factors that cause them to select why to study in Asia and Pacific Islands. And the top three reasons are reputation of the educational system, secondly, affordability of the education, followed by better reputation for career. And let's move on to another important area, which is the social media. And we know that Gen Z, right, they utilizes social media so much to obtain information and also to connect with their peers. And we do our social media analysis as well, because we know how you promote and how you recruit candidates. And the preference for social media platform by Gen Z differs in different countries. So in China, we see that there's a variety of popular options where the top is actually WeChat, Weibo, Douyin, and Xiaohongshu. And for India, we see that the top is YouTube, but we also notice that there's increasing popularity for Snapchat. Now let's look at the other countries. For Japan, top the list is Line. It is increasing, but there's also a declining trend for YouTube. And for Thailand, we see an increasing trend for TikTok. Let's look at Malaysia and the other country. For Malaysia, it is YouTube that is topping the list. And for South Korea, it is Talk. So these are very interesting trends that we noticed. And this is actually great data that we support our clients with in terms of the social media trends, where it would be great info, right, to actually look into your promotions and connecting with candidates. So from the many events that we held last year, as well as the upcoming programs that we are having, we constantly do an analysis that we share with all our universities and business schools. And for last year, we do a measurement based on the 9 countries that we have presented our events. And these are really fantastic results, because from our personalized meetings with them, we personally speak to them, we personally pre-screen, we also filter, and also to ensure that there's a match between the candidates' results, their academic qualification, as well as the admission criteria. So we hope that you find these findings relevant, and I'd like to next proceed with our Q&A session with the panel discussion. So before I start with the panel speakers, right, I'm very, very interested to see if the panel speakers' answers would coincide with the data that I've just shared. Before we start with the questions, can I request the panel speakers to give a brief introduction?
Okay, I hope you don't hear an echo coming from me.
No, it's good.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
My name is Winston. I'm the Senior Director of Admissions here at Asia School of Business, which is a graduate-only business school that's founded by Bank Negara in collaboration with MIT Sloan School of Management.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. And thank you to Advent for inviting us today. My name is Aaron Goh. I'm director of the NUS Business School Masters of Science programs, and we offer a suite of over 10 specialized pre-experienced masters at the NUS Business School.
Thank you, Aaron.
My name is Roanne. I'm the Assistant Director of the Chinese University of Hong Kong MBA programs. So I actually spent my last decade focusing on marketing and admissions for the MBA program. I also did a little bit of time supporting the master program for international recruitment as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Roanne. So I'll now proceed with the questions. So my first question will be for Winston. Winston, have you noticed any major shifts in candidate preference in terms of programs content, format, and decision-making behavior as the Gen Z now are steadily populating graduate schools? What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, I think in terms of content, I would define it as there is the pre-ChatGPT world and there is the post-ChatGPT world. When ChatGPT came into the scene, suddenly what we have been telling students, oh, coding will be great, is a great skill for you to have. Data analytics will be a great skill for you to have. And then we realized that, oh no, ChatGPT can do all that. It can code, it can do data analytics. But what you need to know is how to do prompt engineering. So again, our school, we went back to the drawing board and quickly. So one of our elective actually was on data analytics. So what we had to do was to change it such that it's data analytics with the use of AI tool. So again, in terms of the kind of courses that people are looking for, this is the change in trend that I see. There's another trend that I see, and I attribute it to the pandemic, is that increasingly I'm getting people who want to take their classes online or in a hybrid format rather than to do it in person. So I guess the great experiment of studying online during COVID worked. So if people want to stay online now.
Yes, correct. But just curious, do they question about the effectiveness of doing it online versus full time?
Yeah, so I guess it comes down to the individual choice. I know this answer sounds very professorial, right? It depends. But I do have candidates whose first language is not in English. And when they attend a class and they may not be able to catch it the first time around, having a hybrid lesson allows them to rerun that class and watch it for as many times as they can. Or in the instance of those who attends a class with a professor that speaks very slowly, they could put it on double speed and get through it at half the time. So that's what online allows them. But again, what of course they would miss is that the in-person networking, the in-person, how should I put it? There's this thing about when you talk to someone in person, look them in the eye, it makes a whole lot of difference when compared to speaking to them over Zoom.
Yes,
Yeah, so
correct.
that bit is missing if we do it online only.
Yeah, the chemistry between the person, yeah, is very much different from doing it online. True. Yes. Thank you so much for your input on this, Aaron. Sorry, yeah, Winston. Yeah, let's hear from Aaron next. Yeah, Aaron, I have this question for you. Do students prefer to study locally or internationally? And what are their top study destinations? And have you observed any shifts in the last 2 years?
So as your data shared, as you shared earlier with your data, that's what we're finding as well. Asian candidates do want to travel further.
Yep.
What we are trying to do at the NUS Business School is try to recapture the Asian market, to show them that there is value in an international education within Asia as well. And what we have also found, pre-pandemic, about 35% of our students, our master's students, were from Europe, and that has dropped to about 25% or even less. So again, I think that is the change that I've heard from candidates, that they prefer to stay closer within Europe, for instance, instead of traveling further. Now, the exposure to coming to Asia for studies is is unlimited, right? I mean, you're then exposing yourself to a whole different culture, an international environment that will be invaluable for your future career.
Exactly. But do you foresee this to change in the next 2 or 3 years?
I'm personally hoping that it will change. I think for all of us, because again, as sort of Winston mentioned earlier, studying online has its benefits and you're in your own comfort zone. But I feel it's also important to get out of your comfort zone, to have that interactivity with peers, with other humans, faculty and colleagues, where intercultural interactions will continue to be important in society, in the working world. So for us, we definitely value the in-person experience in the classroom. And this is one reason why we don't offer online programs.
All right.
So I'd like to chime in here as well. I guess for Asian students, there are a few key considerations: career outcomes, and forex rates, right? For example, and here, given the strong greenback, many of the foreign exchange, many of the currencies here in Asia has weakened in correspondingly. So it makes it more expensive for them to have an education in that part of the world. And if you add to that the difficulty of a career outcome due to this the post-study visa issues, you add to that the geopolitical tension, and you add to that the high cost of living and rent. So it's like a perfect storm that's brewing right now.
Yeah, totally agree. I just want to add one more thing, because if you talk about like student in general, so as a school in Hong Kong, we being part of China, I still observe there are more and more Chinese students. They would like to stay in the region, especially remain in China or come to Hong Kong. So one of the slide that you shared earlier is that the proximity to the home location. So, but Chinese students, they would like to stay closer to home. This is what I experienced in the couple of this year and last year as well. And Winston also mentioned about the ethics. I'm now in Japan, so with my Hong Kong people in Japan. So I can view that, people in Japan, they would like to stay in their home country because of the foreign exchange. It's actually not really ideally for them to travel overseas and study.
All right. So it's very much on the cost factor.
Yes, definitely. And also the career program after the MBA as well.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Thanks for sharing that. And my next question, Roanne, if you could help me with this, is who are the stakeholders, for example, family, friends, social media influencers, or employers, who influence the education choices of prospective postgraduate students?
Everyone you mentioned, I would say.
But which would be the top one?
Well, my experience there, when we communicate with prospective students, even though they do lots of one-on-one section, but I'm quite sure most of them, they will talk to their friends, their family, their colleagues, for example, because most of the MBA prospective student, or even some of the master students, they are working professional, they have colleagues. So, and for some students who are sponsored by the company, they need to talk to the employer as well. So all these people surround them, even those virtually online, the KOL are important. So that is why make us like a marketer for business school is more, complicated work. You need to communicate and convert our message to different part of the party generations as well. So no single factor, I would say.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Do you have anything to
Sharon.
add, Winston?
Yeah, actually, I think one of the options could actually be alumni, because people who have passed through the program, they have survived, they would have survivor stories to share with these prospects, especially people coming from the same culture, right? They would say, oh, that's my fellow Italian that has done well in Malaysia. or done well after the program in Malaysia. Let's talk to him and find out more. How would an Italian like me fit into the local culture? Yeah. So that actually is quite an important factor as well.
Yeah, good point. What about Winston, from your experience and your conversation with the candidates that you meet, other than the alumni, would actually be social media influencers play an important role? Probably like strangers, but they share their experience from their MBA studies. Would that actually play an important role? Do they have that trust?
I think the best way to answer this is that recently I had a chat with the Gen Zs in my team, and I asked them, so when you need an answer, where do you search? You know, being there, I'm not a boomer, but they're calling me one. I use Google, and I say, oh, that's so yesterday. We TikTok it now.
Okay.
So again, you know, the search engines of each generation is different, and it would play a very big part in influencing what they see, what they hear, or where they search.
Yes, true. I agree.
I think to me that is only one factor, but it's I think, as Roanne sort of mentioned earlier, it's the culmination of drawing information from all resources. And I agree with Winston, and current students and alumni are the most valuable source of information. That's what I always tell prospective candidates. I'm out on the road right now, meeting prospective candidates, and that's the one thing I tell them. Just go on LinkedIn, type in the school, the program, and find, for us at least, most if not all our students and alumni are on there, and they will share the good, the bad, the ugly. They'll share their experience, and it's better hearing it from a current student or an alumni who has gone through the programs, as well as hearing it from us school administrators. So you get two different perspectives as well.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think, this is the generation of reviews. So when we make any purchase, or before we walk into any restaurant, we would Foursquare it, we would Google review it first. So same thing when it comes to a major life-changing decision like getting an overseas education. Yeah, so the alumni actually would become the Google reviewers that they can trust, rather than car salesmen like us.
Yes, thank you so much for the wonderful feedback and the insights that you have let us know from your conversation with the candidates. Yeah, just curious, what factors do Masters and MBA candidates consider when planning their studies and selecting a business school? Aaron, can we hear from you from the Master's program perspective? And then maybe Winston and Roanne, you can give me from the MBA perspective.
For us also, yes, I think for master's students, they are starting out in their career. And one big consideration is employability and the ability to work in the country where they are pursuing their master's, possibly. So even within Asia, if someone's coming from Vietnam to Singapore, the opportunities for working in Singapore would play an important factor. The another factor would be definitely the cost of the program, scholarships that may be provided, and also the ease of assimilation into the community, whether it's the school community or whether it's the country, whether they're able to speak the language. I think these are all important factors that they think about. And of course, at the master's level, it is still paid for by their parents, most of them.
Yeah.
So the parents' comfort or the sponsors' comfort in the reputation of the school in the country, these play a part as well.
Thanks a lot, Aaron. Yeah, Winston, can we hear from you, and Roanne as well? May I start with Winston?
Okay. I guess when it comes to the MBA program, it does have that reputation of being the program that gives you X to your income level. So it's still seen, the career outcome is seen as really important. So for example, we're a very young school. We're just past 8 years old. So when I tell candidates that, oh, we're 8 years old, they say, oh, okay. But without fail, every year we have someone in McKinsey and go, oh, that really gets their attention. Yeah.
Well, I also think about the career outcome of our alumni is something very important because they would just take them as a reference to they would just foresee whether they can get similar kind of career outcome after they pursue an MBA, and something more realistic would be about the visa policy of the destination. So whether they will be able to get the visa to stay and work without any hassle. And of course, proximity, I think somehow is also important for them because some of them, they might want to relocate to other country, but they still want a location that not too far from home so that they can go easier. And perhaps one day, maybe 3 to 5 years later, they may relocate back to their home country.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and I'm just curious, looking into Asian candidates' preference. When it comes to selection of the school, do they look into reputation, for example, the accreditation and also the ranking? What are your thoughts on this, Roanne?
Yes, but not they are actually looking into different ranking as well. So some students for some countries, some students they look at the particular MBA ranking or MSc ranking. And for some, they look into the university's ranking. So, so both ranking are important, especially for those who they're not very familiar with the country or that kind of program. So they would definitely look for that kind of so-called more objective information as well. So, so what were the other questions? Ranking and also
the accreditation.
Accreditation, not quite nowadays, I think. Yeah. But perhaps I do came across a few Indian candidates from time to time. They would, oh, if school is accredited by ACSB or EQUAS, something like this. But not ranking is more common. I would that's my experience.
Okay, all right. What about you, Aaron? Understand that you also have a lot of exposure, not just Asian candidates, but foreign candidates as well. Yeah, would their focus be on accreditations as well as ranking?
Similar to what Roanne shared, not on the accreditation side. Rankings, yes, it is a factor. Especially also as Roanne shared, if they're unfamiliar with the school or the country, if we tell them, okay, NUS is ranked 8th in the world, that does help to attract them as well. So they value a master's degree from a highly ranked institution.
All right.
But of course, there are other factors, as in the mode of delivery, whether it's seminar style, whether it's lecture style. So to us, I think to me, rankings is just a factor, but not the be all and end all for candidates.
All right. What about cultural fit? What are your thoughts on this in terms of do Asian students look for a place where they feel comfortable, or do they prefer a school that they are open to, challenge themselves with new exposure and new experience? What do you think, Aaron?
I think that's a personal decision. I think their family, their surroundings play a part in this, in the sense that if they have grown up in a culture where they're exposed to other cultures, they'll be more open to continuing that in their further education, their master's education, whether it's master's or MBA. But if they are if they have grown up in an environment where they are, you know, in a what's the right word for it? In a culture that they're just more comfortable in, that plays a part as well. Then I think they look for programs and schools that have more of their own country people in the program. And for us, you know, even candidates and applicants and students from our majority country join us because they want the international environment. They don't want to see more of their own country people in their program.
Yes, a bit more diversity. Yeah,
exactly.
That's great.
Because there's a lot to be learned from peer sharing, learning about how business is done in a different culture, because we're in such an interconnected world today.
True, agree with you. And what about Winston? Do you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, so I actually agree with Aaron on that. It comes down to the individual, because there are those who are, you know, although they're in Asia, they probably go through a school system that is modeled after a particular Western country's education system. So their whole life's goal is, I want to be there one day. So these are the ones that would go into that new host country and really thrive, right? And then they'll go local, they'll go native, they will make friends. They will make sure that they only make friends with the local community. But then there are those for whom maybe you've taken the boy out of the country, but you haven't taken the country out of the boy. So they'll gravitate towards the familiar. They'll eat the same type of food that they're used to, talk the same language, mix with the same community that they're used to. So it's like they never left home.
Great. Yeah, I've got a very important question, and I think the audience also would like to know from your end, because you're the experts from top business schools. Yeah, so with regard to the recruitment strategies, what has worked best for your school in the past year? And is your school planning any major changes? Yeah, Roanne, can we hear from you?
Okay, sure, of course. Well, I think because all of us that did mention about that, about the review things, right? So now students, they actually look a lot on many reviews online, no matter from different social media or YouTube or different channels. So the experience and the real experience of student and also alumni is actually very important. So in terms of the marketing strategy, it's all about, you know, how do we package and put that kind of experience of our student or alumni on the social media, also on the website, so that the prospective student can reach out to them. And in terms of the channel that we are using, all you mentioned already, like the social media, but nowadays we do use a lot of communication app like Lines, WhatsApp, WeChat, so on and so forth, to engage those applicants.
All right. Thanks, Roanne. Yeah, Aaron, can we hear from you? Any comments on your recruitment strategies, please?
I think, well, we feel that the personal touch is important, getting on the ground to get connected to candidates. And, you know, with this generation, attention span is very short. So we're doing more and more events than before, and going into the cities, connecting with candidates, whether it's coffee chats, info sessions, guest lectures. So we are doing more of that. Also online, although sometimes we feel the online approach is less personalized. So there are pros and cons to different approaches, and it's as Winston alluded to, we are in a way salespeople, whether it's car salesmen, but it's a very competitive market now. So, yes.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Yeah, what is your experience in the sense that when you speak to them in person versus communicating with them virtually, is the rate of securing the application higher when you meet them in person?
Yes, I personally feel that it is, because there is at least 1 or 2 touch points. They have a person that they have met and they can trust, or at least connect with. For example, I'm still receiving WhatsApp messages from a candidate I met in Bogota, and he's a strong candidate, and it's someone who is interested in Asia. So having met that person, the candidate in person, helps build that trust, that connectivity. Of course, we can't do this with every candidate, but those across different regions, we try to have that connectivity.
Yes, that's really
It also means that, in a way that if the candidate want to come and meet you in person, which
Yes.
means more committed, and it also kind of like can measure the yield rate.
Yes, correct. Commitment level is so much higher when
Definitely.
it's meeting in person. Exactly. Winston, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so I guess it's a matter of, firstly, what we've done very, very differently is that in the past, it used to be so simple. You have one message and you broadcast it. Now we're in an age where you need to personalize, but at scale. So that's a holy grail. And then secondly, I think what we're doing differently is also we're changing our messaging. So instead of talking at the candidates, we are talking to them. Not only are we talking to them, we have to talk to the respective influences in their lives, and to find what are the key messages that resonate with these respective influences, so that it all culminates together. Yeah. So that's what we're doing very, very differently this year.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing with us your recruitment strategies. Just like to ask one last question. As in, how early do Asian candidates plan their next education step? And to what extent do they prefer, in terms of gaining work experience before graduate school? Aaron, would you like to answer this? How
Sure.
early do Asian candidates plan?
So I also think it's up to the individual, or in a way, family influences, again, friends or even KOLs. But another factor is also perhaps the employment norms in the country.
Okay.
For some countries, as I understand it, as we understand it, they do require a master's before they can even get a job. So that may play a factor as well. So it boils down to the individual. We're seeing candidates who are finishing high school and they are asking about masters already. So they're planning 3-4 years ahead. Whereas some are looking for immediate, opportunities, right? In year 3, year 4 of college, they're planning ahead. I would say 80% of them are in that category, where they're realizing what their true passions are. I think, at 17, 18, young adults are not really sure what they want to pursue. Most of us find our passions later in life. So at that stage, when they're finishing off their undergraduate, is when they need to focus in the direction that they wish to pursue. And again, whether it's their own or their parents' influence or friends in society, but that's the point where they start looking.
Right. Yeah. Roanne, since you are in Hong Kong and you're closer to the candidates in Hong Kong and China, what do you think about this Asian candidates? How early do they plan their next education stage?
Well, Hong Kong and Chinese are actually quite different from the other part of the Asians candidate. So what my experience that Hong Kong and Chinese candidate, they usually plan for study for current year or the next year only. But
Oh,
some other Asian candidate, for example, some Southeast Asian country or in like Japan or Korea, they might come to the event like 2 to 3 years in advance and they get information and do research. So again, I believe it is also really down to the personal level and also what really happened upon the career at that point of time. So we do have some last minute applications every year, especially from locally, because they do not need to apply for visa. So it makes them apply for last minute round. And we also have some from overseas, they can still want to apply for the last round because, they suddenly think that, they would like to relocate or they have some wonderful opportunity overseas they would like to run on and then they study a part-time MBA. So it always happens. Some might plan ahead, 2 to 3 years ahead, it happens. And some might have last minute, ideas to pursue, in higher educations.
all right. Thank you so much, Roanne. Yeah, a big thank you to our esteemed speakers for sharing their valuable insights with us today. Your expertise has truly enriched our understanding, especially your exposure to these candidates in Asia and Aaron in other countries as well. Yeah, so now we will transition into the next segment of our webinar. So for our audience, please feel free to continue engaging with us by submitting your questions through the Q&A. Okay, I have a question here that I received. All right, the question is, it's great to hear about the strategies to attract students with online and offline events. How about the communication and admission process system? Sometimes students might feel frustrated because of the long process or not getting updated fast enough. Winston, would you be able to answer this?
Okay, thank you for this question. So what I did differently when I joined the school is I told my team we want to have a turnaround time of 30 days. This is precisely to address this frustration that candidates can feel. I mean, if they can, they would love to, right? The moment they click submit, they can hear the answer right away. This is an on-demand generation. Unfortunately, there is a robust consideration process behind it all. So 30 days was the maximum possible for us. And I guess what we can do is to let them know, okay, which part of the process you're going through right now, so they feel that it's not a black hole that they've gotten into and, then maybe hear back 3-6 months later. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I can also add
you.
on something. So our approach is that because we are so glad that our business school itself has a separate application portal. So it's separate from the university graduate school application portal. So I mean that we already have access to the applications information by the time they register for the account. So they do not have to wait until they submit and then we can view the content, the particulars. So in fact, some colleagues and my staff can actually reach out to those applicants during the applications process to see if they would like some other assistance or set up some chat with us. And that kind of personalized approach is actually very important, especially for us a small program. Or I think everyone here, they are facing a huge challenge when we're talking about recruiting international students for MBA or master program. So I think that kind of personal approach or more proactive approach is actually helping us a lot.
Great. Yes, thank you. Let me see. Okay. Just give them a few more seconds if there are any questions. Yes. Based on your experience and expertise, should employers make an issue about their employees taking their masters? Okay. And will current master students be hindered a promotion because of their studies? What do you think, Aaron?
I think this question is more about the office culture, the company culture within each organization. to me, they should never be hindered because of their master's studies. Now, it's also whether then do they see it as a potential threat, as in once an employee gets their master's, they might move on. But I think in any organization, employers should not see that as a threat, versus as an advantage that after their master's studies, whether it's master's or MBA, the employees will come back and add even more value to the organization.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Yes,
I'd like
Winston, would
to
you like to
chime
add?
in on that. Yeah, so this is actually very relevant to us for our executive MBA program, which is a part-time program. So we do have many corporate sponsored candidates that join this program. And we actually do have a deck that we go to the company and present to the HR or the reporting managers about the benefits that this person can bring when the person joins us in the program. And of course, the company is free to have their own retention policy. And we do have some recommendations on what are the other case studies that are done at the other companies. So we actually go to that extent to help the candidates to educate the companies.
Yes, thank you very much, Winston. Okay, there's another question here. How important is internationalization in your recruitment efforts, and do you have any strategies to attract top-tier talent? Okay, Roanne, would you like to take this question?
Yes, sure. Okay, thank you for the question. And it is very important. And it is why I'm now in Japan and going to Seoul, because for international MBA programs or some other master program, we always want diversities in our class. But bear in mind, diversity is not just about the passport or nationality, but we also treasure about the diversity of industry and function. But we also understand students always want to meet people from a different cultural background to enrich their learning experience. And it also helps the peers experience as well. By all that means, so attending overseas recruitment event is one of the tools and one of the way that we can expose ourselves to those international students. And how to attract top tier talent. I think other than just attending event, just like Winston mentioned, recruiting EMBA, for example, go to the company. It's one of the options or one of the strategy, especially for top tiers. So if they are top, so company would like to sponsor them, and they will have great career progression after the program as well, right? So it is one of the good way to work with corporate partners. And other than that, there might be some other channels other than, because for top candidate, they might not immediately look for a high education opportunity, but they might look for a job promotions or different career opportunity. So some of the way that you can promote the program through different industry related media or platform, it also helps as well, I think.
Okay, right. Yes, and there's another question. What recruitment technologies and recruitment strategies like AI, social media, etc., show the most promise for enhancing postgraduate student recruitment process? Winston, would you be able to take it?
Yeah, so not quite recruitment technologies per se, but I think one of the key component of any arsenal would be the ability to broadcast over WhatsApp or chat, right? Because increasingly people are no longer reading their emails or they're leaving their personal emails till the weekend. So if you want to reach out proactively, if you want to connect with candidates, then you want to be on chat with them. So that's what we found super effective. And of course, in order for us to be able to do that, then of course we need technology that's able to plug into the existing CRM system. So we do use some of these unified comms, unified communication tools and applications out there.
All right, right. Yeah, great. What about Aaron? How about from your side?
In terms of AI, it is a tool that we use, but we also value again the human interaction during the process.
Okay.
So we use a couple of AI tools in the early stages of the application process, but we still, for us, every student who ends up seated in our classroom would have gone through nowadays a Zoom interview or at least an online interview with our admissions panel.
Yes. Thank you very much, Aaron. Next question. Please elaborate on the importance of creating personal relationships with the candidates. Does recruitment fairs provide the best platform? Winston, would you like to comment on this?
Sure. So recruitment fairs is one of the few platforms or one of the few activities that we do. Where we also do coffee chats, as well as for some of the cities, we actually do our own info session as well. We do find that this in-person forms the strongest form of personal relationship, and of course, and somehow people feel chat is friendlier rather than an email list too officious. So if you want anything quick, anything friendly, do it over chat. Yeah.
All right.
If I may add,
Sure.
So recruitment fairs, are, in a way top of the funnel, right? There's a short few second touch point with the schools, but also then other supplementary activities or just to push also, I think with Advent, there are sort of I'm blanking on what you call it now, but the ones where there are pre-screened candidates that give you a longer time with each candidate. That again adds face time to potential candidates, and it's an opportunity for both sides, both the candidate and the school, to assess the fit, for the program.
Yes.
So opportunities like that are important, at least.
Right. Thank
from
you.
what we have found.
Thank you. That would be our Access MBA and Access Masters event. Yeah. Okay, let me see. We have one question here regarding the application portal, Ms. Roanne, that you mentioned, and the responsive length, which Mr. Winston, you mentioned. Then do you think digitalization for admission process and CRM would help institutions recruit more students? What would be the challenges for universities to adopt technology in the process? Yeah, Roanne, what is your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm not quite sure what you will refer to the digitalization of admissions process, because definitely everything now digitalized on the application portal. We can trace the online activities or offline activities using a CRM. For example, we organize info sessions, we send an EDM, or even we do a social media advertisement. We can actually track how many touch points that we engage with a candidate. If there's some technology to do that, which also help us to measure the effectiveness of the marketing effort or the advertisement effort. But if you talk about like the application process, whether it could be digitalized, for example, you can simply start a auto reply email or message, or using some for example some kind of system to respond to activities. So for example, if a candidate register for an event and then he or she show up, then you have follow message for certain next steps. So if he or she didn't show up, there will be another message. That kind of simple, digitalization follow-up is actually quite effective, or it saves a lot of human, timing process.
All right, great.
Yeah,
How
I
about
actually
Winston?
echo
Yes,
that. Yeah, so I think the digitalization will help you to reduce human error, because if it's still a semi auto or a manual process, you actually get a lot of clerical error, transfer errors as well. And secondly, as Roanne has shared, that visibility, the transparency of the data allows you to see what are the touch points, what are the digital footprint of your prospects and converts. And using that actually is very powerful insight, because using that, you can then make your advertising dollar work harder by advertising to lookalike audiences. And that is actually quite important. So I would say that digitalization would help you to process faster, more efficiently, more effectively, but you do need to build the top. It doesn't help you to build the top of the funnel. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Winston. We have a question here from Steve Lee. What metrics are getting essential beyond enrollment numbers to track the success of postgraduate recruitment in the coming years? What do you use, or what do you currently track? Any specific metrics?
I don't know if this is answering the question, but I think it's also important that we track the success rate through the program and also placement. So it's a whole, what do you call that? It's a whole process from beginning to end, right? Because for us, we want to see whether, now each candidate and individual will be different, but we want to see whether someone coming from a certain school in a particular country will be a successful graduate in terms of grades, commitment to the program, as well as then placement after the program.
Okay, yes, thanks a lot, Eric.
Yeah, so I guess I'll answer it this way, right? For every admissions person, when we answer to management, we always say we have X number of students who have enrolled and X numbers who are on their way to enrolling, right? So being able to track that engagement of the students who have not converted yet, that is really useful. This is where the digitalization, having an integrated CRM helps you to be able to answer that.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Winston. Okay, let's look at the last question that we have. Can you please also share to what extent and how social media platforms and social media presence are used in your digital recruitment strategies? And what is the future of digital platforms used for any recruitment effort? Yeah, any thoughts on this? Let's go for Roanne. Would you be able to help me on this?
In what extent social media platform and media, so we promote events, we share stories. So there are different ways to market the program. So as we all discussed earlier time, that personalizing people's stories is important. So that is how we would use social media, no matter which channels, to promote some real person experience of our student or alumni. And of course, we also use the same channels to promote the event, because if you're investing a lot of money and also time to pursue a degree, you won't just go to the event and then, okay, I would like to pursue that event, because it is really because you heard about different story and successful story, and you want to be one of them. So that is why some content marketing is important. So the content include experience of student, alumni, the career progression, the faculty's members, stories, even the research, even the university, the countries, the location, so on and so forth. Lots of things related.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Roanne. There's one question from Steve. Based on what Winston said, what is the best way to build the top of the funnel? And how do you guarantee the top of the funnel quality so you don't fall down into thousands of prospects that doesn't have potential at all to enroll?
Okay, we'll answer the second part of the question first. If you have thousands of prospects who don't seem to have potential at all to enroll, there's a very simple fix to that. charge a admissions fee, application fee that will help to filter out people who are not that serious. Because application sometimes is a self-selecting process, right? If they feel that, oh, I have no chance in hell in getting into this school or this program, then I'm not going to waste that 100, 200 or 500 bucks to do the application. Yeah, so that's one way. But talking about building the top of the funnel, I guess that's what that's what we're talking about, having a social media presence, because you do need to get into the head of these people that you want to recruit. And where do they live? They live online. So you need to be where they are. So if they're living on TikTok, you've got to be on TikTok. If they're on WeChat, you got to be on WeChat. And then from there, first you build awareness through these online activities, and then you secure it with, like Access MBA event, when you meet them in person, they look you in the eye, they can trust you. Yeah.
Yes, great. Yeah, thank you so much for the wonderful answer. Yeah, really appreciate that. And we have come to the end of the Q&A. So we'd like to thank all our attendees for joining us today. And we sincerely appreciate your participation and engagement. We hope you found today's webinar, insightful and valuable. And if you have any further questions, or if you'd like to revisit any part of today's discussion, you can always reach out to me. And we look forward to connecting with you once again in other webinars, and we will keep you all informed. Thank you so much and have a great day. Thank you so much, my fellow speakers. Appreciate your participation and also accepting our invitation to be on this panel discussion. Have a nice
Thank
day,
you.
everyone.
Thank you very much, Sharon.
Take care,
You're
everyone.
most welcome. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.